The BC NDP are opposing the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion on the grounds that it is dangerous to the environment. Yet, as we speak, the BC NDP are also allowing the construction of a jet fuel pipeline across salmon habitat. Now, BC Premier John Horgan finds himself at the center of a constitutional crisis here in Canada of his own making, as his government blocks the Trans Mountain pipeline from Edmonton to ports in Vancouver. But as it turns out, the Vancouver Airport Authority is proceeding with the construction of a pipeline that will be used to import jet fuel. As reported in Business Vancouver magazine last June, a $150 million pipeline is currently being constructed to supply Vancouver's airport with jet fuel. According to Business Vancouver, site preparation began May 2017 in Richmond for a new tank farm and the pipeline that will supply airlines operating out of Vancouver's International Airport. The pipeline is scheduled for completion in 2019, and the new terminal will be able to receive Panamax tanker vessels, which will allow the airport consortium to import jet fuel from Asia. Well, go figure. When the pipeline was first approved by the former Liberal government in British Columbia, they just sort of sprung the idea on Justin Trudeau's Liberals in Ottawa. Well, residents of the area claimed that the new 14-kilometer pipeline and associated tank farm could pose a threat to Fraser River salmon. Now, when pressed by a local Comox radio station about the sheer hypocrisy of allowing a jet fuel pipeline to go ahead across salmon habitat while simultaneously blocking a state-of-the-art pipeline from her friends in Alberta, BC NDP MLA Claire Trevina had this to say. Just listen.
Well, we have other pipelines going through the province at the moment. There are pipelines, obviously, that are working, but this is the issue of the diluted bitumen, which is a real concern.
Oh, she says it's not about the pipeline and that pipelines themselves are not the issue. Well, that's probably news to her leader, John Horgan, who told the Globe and Mail that it is absolutely about pipelines and the potential for oil spills. Actually, according to Horgan, he said, an increase in the transportation of liquid petroleum products to the province by rail, pipeline, and truck will have a disproportionate impact on BC's environment, Indigenous peoples, and the economy. Got it? Pipelines are a problem, except when BC builds a pipeline to import fossil fuels from Asia, the very place where Alberta wants to export our fossil fuels to. Then it's apparently just ducky. And going back to that jet fuel pipeline construction, deep in the article from Business Vancouver, I learned a little something new about Vancouver's existing supply of jet fuel. You see, the article says that airlines operating out of Vancouver's International Airport get most of their jet fuel from Kinder Morgan, but only 40% of the jet fuel moving through the pipeline comes from the former Chevron refinery. Instead, the rest comes by barge from the Cherry Point refinery in Washington state and by tanker truck. So Vancouver gets a lot of their jet fuel from Kinder Morgan, but also from the Cherry Point refinery in Washington state. Well, that certainly explains this letter here from the state of Washington's Department of Ecology, where they plead with the ministerial panel for the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project to block the pipeline in its entirety, citing an increase in tanker traffic passing through Washington state and Canadian shared waters. You see, it was never about blocking tanker traffic because nobody is complaining about the trucks that are coming up from Cherry Point and the barges that are currently coming up from Cherry Point bringing oil, or the imported Asian tankers. Washington state, a foreign government, is trying to intervene on a wholly Canadian energy infrastructure project while they stand to economically benefit from the blocking of that very same project. Let's pretend the Russians wrote a letter like that about an American pipeline. This is the exact kind of garbage state of Washington Democrats routinely accuse Russia of doing. You know, meddling in other countries' internal affairs. So to sum it up, pipelines are bad if they're Canadian. Tankers and barges, also bad if they're Canadian. And meddling in foreign affairs of a sovereign country is bad too, unless you're doing it to us Canadians. For the Rebel.Media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. What you just saw there is my daily video here at The Rebel, but did you know that I also have my own weekly full-length show? It's aptly called The Gunn Show, and we talk about issues facing Canadian families. But to get access to my show and the rest of our incredible premium content, treat yourself to a Rebel subscription today.